and preservation. And so with us today, we have a couple of guest presenters. We have Robbie LeValley, who is Delta County Administrator. She'll be talking about a past feasibility study and an upcoming feasibility study regarding an IQF, or an individual quick freeze facility. We also have Kathryn Bedell from Roan Creek Ranch, who will be discussing her efforts at getting some other grants, like the local food promotion program grant, to also contribute to the funding of and the starting of that facility. And we have Mitch Bennett, who is working on a proof of concept facility for this season for an IQF. So let's go ahead and get started. And we'll start with Robbie LeValley. And she'll be talking about past feasibility study and a current feasibility study. Robbie?
Good morning, Sean. Good morning, everyone on the call. Just real quick so that we can get to the discussion portion. In November of 2018, then, Conservation District, in cooperation with many of you on the Zoom call here, worked with the Western Slope Crop Preservation Phase 1 feasibility study, primarily focusing on the IQF and primarily focusing on sweet corn and peaches. As many of you know, those are the higher value products that come from this area, but of course, a very short market life there. Many of you have heard about the study, but just I wanted to real quick go into the findings. The overall indication from this phase 1 based on this study was that there is sufficient business conditions existing to warrant a full feasibility study for developing the regional preservation facility. And specifically, there is adequate crop production available with the baseline potential of 10 million pounds of peaches and sweet corn, and the potential capacity to expand the crop production to meet the demand of facilities in a variety of capacity sizes and end products. That area growers are wanting a processing facility to support the higher margin use of the imperfects and to develop access to new markets for their products. Currently, and again, 2018, $4 million worth of culls alone, and that's at their fresh value, are composted each year. In addition, the out-of-season idle capacity of a facility could be directed to processing other crops from not only this region, but other regions as well. So there, the phase 1, there is a market. There is a rising consumer and commercial interest in frozen and dried foods, particularly thinking about the geographically identified products. There's strong regional brand recognition with the Olathe sweet corn, Palisade peaches, Western Slope produce, Colorado Proud. State surveys show the name recognition for Palisade peaches at 93% and Olathe sweet corn at 84%. Buyers do want that preserved product. And again, that was based on the feasibility. And then even at the national level, institutional buyers are looking to expand their local regional sourcing for ingredients and flavoring, as well as for distribution impacts, what we've seen through the COVID. And of course, the consumers are always wanting that higher quality processed products. So with that, that's the summary of phase 1. Phase 2, then, Delta County just released the RFP out on the street in cooperation and consultation with Colorado State University with Don Thilmany, and seeking a consultant for the IQF to explore, again, the initial feasibility said that a full-blown feasibility study was warranted, so that looking more detailed at the IQF, or value-added facility, that aligns with the produce industry, not only of the West Slope, but include the San Luis Valley, currently with the potatoes and that, and then start looking at the traditional business feasibility and discussion of bridging the gap between the region's food business owners to the Denver market, retail buyers, and that. So the second phase, again, will be the more detailed go into the actual product here, broaden the region approach for the product, and then go into the specific buyers. So again, that RFP has just been released in cooperation with Colorado State University. So stay tuned for that. Our goal would be to have the report back to you all by the end of the year. That's quick and dirty, but that gives you the highlights.
Thank you, Robbie. Let's go ahead and move on to Kathryn Bedell, who will talk about the local food promotion program grant that she's applying for. And if you have any questions as we go along, please just post them in the chat, and we'll collect them all up here at the end after Robbie, Kathryn, and Mitch all talk about what they're doing, and we'll have a time of discussion. Thank you. Go ahead, Kathryn.
So first, I wanted to report back on the CDA's Move the Needle grant, which I applied for to buy a used quick freeze tunnel to work on some proof of concept stuff this season. Unfortunately, we did not get that grant. And I don't know if anyone else has heard who got that grant awards. I heard that they had $3.4 million of applications and only $300,000. So I'm curious to see what they did fund, but I don't think that's been released yet. The local food promotion grant is due June 21st, and we're just trying to put together sort of the scope of that. We were hoping to buy some processing equipment, and now I guess we're going to need the quick freeze tunnel, and then pay some salaries and marketing things. The reason I'm going ahead with this grant, if I can get it together in time, is because, you know, if we look at it, it's 2018 to start that first feasibility study. Now it's going to be the end of 22 or 23 before we get the next feasibility study back. And meanwhile, people are going out of business and having a really hard time in agriculture. So I'm pretty much done with all the chatter and stuff. I want some action, and that's why I've decided to move forward with this. So we're looking for support. That can be letters of intent to invest and to bring produce in, and just letters that you're interested in selling produce or fruits and vegetables in, or being a buyer and developing those markets. So that's sort of, and Mitch and I are working on this together. He's putting together a rough business plan. We need to get some budget for the equipment put together. And then we're still discussing the lease rate that we'll be paying in the upstairs of the new Western Slope Food Innovation Center. So that's sort of where that stands. I have sort of a rough idea. The application is actually fairly simple. It's 15 pages plus they have a very clear template on that. So once we get all the information, I can put that together really quick and submit it. It does require a 25% match, and we're sort of investigating where that will come from. So that's where that stands.
Thank you, Kathryn. All right, so third presenter here we have is Mitch Bennett, who is a managing member of Western Slope Food.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Sean. It looks like Chris has a question.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted a quick question. Kathryn, could you clarify specifically what you're asking for in that grant?
I'm asking for funds to buy processing equipment for fruit and vegetable preparation, and then a quick freeze tunnel and packaging equipment. And then also the other qualifying things that we have on our plate are the rental rate for the building, the space, and then also you can ask for some salary money. So we're still figuring out where our budget is on all that. The budget limit on the implementation grant is $750,000. So, you know, we have we have some room. We may get close to that, or we may be around $500,000.
Thank you, Kathryn. And I'm sorry, Chris, I didn't see your question there. We'll get to questions here real shortly. Let's just bring in Mitch to kind of give the last kind of piece of the puzzle here of people that are working together to develop a preservation and processing facility. Mitch, will you go ahead and introduce yourself? And I see you're already sharing your screen, so go ahead and present.
Sure. Mitch Bennett. For some of you know, I just purchased the Russell Stouffer's plant. Our PR announcement I just approved this morning will probably hit the press today. We are calling it the Western Slope Food Innovation Center. We are looking to bring in food processors that would be interested in leasing the facility. I'm going to just give you a quick overview of what the plant looks like and what our plans are, and then I'll be up for questions afterwards. So if you look at the facility, that's the picture. We actually have 21.7 acres. It's 271,000 square feet. It's 42,000 square foot freezer. And then we've got a lot of cooling space, dry storage, shipping and receiving. So pretty large facility for the region. This is just to give you what the freezer looks like.
We're now entering the freezer on the east doors. Freezer capacity almost 43,000 square feet. That we have maintained as low as 10 below zero.
So you can see it's a pretty big freezer we have in the facility. That was one of the reasons that we purchased the plant. One of the things that we are doing is that we are going to set aside the second floor, which is about 43,700 square feet, to be basically where we could do a lot of the IQF information. So the second floor has a kitchen, a processing and cooler space. I'll just give you a quick overview. We've got some videos. This is the processing room.
We are now on the second floor production area. This is a big room. This will be for additional processing space, storage space, and or separating area. This is a climate controlled room that's kept between 60 and 65 degrees.
And this is what the kitchen looks like.
As we exit the big area on the second floor production room, we have the second floor kitchen area.
The kitchen be used for all of our cleaning, processing, cutting, blanching of any fruits that you can use. And then we've got a lot of cooler space upstairs.
Working our way through the second floor production area, another door in a room off of the kitchen. This will be an empty shell.
And that will be probably where we'll do all of our processing for IQF. It will be in that particular facility. If we move forward, I apologize here. Sometimes they take off on me. For those of you who don't really know what IQF is, there's two different ways to do it. One is they call a tunnel, which you see up there, and then another one's a spiral. We're looking at putting together a proof of concept, a business plan for a proof of concept to look at both. We want to make sure that when we look at these added value products that we're also looking at beef as being one of them. Frozen patties is an example that you can quick freeze. Why would you quick freeze frozen beef patties? Because they don't stick together. And more importantly, you don't get freezer burn. So a beef patty will stay frozen for over a year. And a lot of your institutional buyers are looking for that. So when you look at the marketplace, we're getting into some new markets, not only institutional buyers, but also brand ingredients. So all your ready-made meals that you look at, they all need to buy frozen product to put into those particular packages. So that's the reason for the IQF. Just to make sure we all are on the same page here, we're not going to be touching any of the fresh marketplaces that are out there. So if you're a producer right now, we're not touching your fresh. What we're saying is that we kind of want to come into the middle here and be part of that processing to do individual quick freezing, cutting, wrapping, co-packing, mixing and blending, because we have a kitchen. And then of course we've got our huge freezer and all of our storage. And then because we've got distribution right there with the receiving and shipping, we can do all the distribution. So that's kind of where we're fitting in there and then going after new markets. If you look at the advantages that we're looking at is that, this really is going to give us an opportunity to take a lot of those seconds and basically put them into a package that can give us longer shelf life. We're going to be located closer to the producers, definitely going to help with us transportation. Once again, we're looking at food waste as being something that we want to with the imperfects, the added value products. And then there's a list of added value products that we can actually bring to the marketplace, which brings basically a new revenue stream. So That's kind of what our vision is, and we're trying to put together a business plan that's focused on really doing a proof of concept, just seeing, what can we do with the facility and what are some of the new products that we can come out with. And that's it.
Okay, everybody, that was a lot of information very quickly because we were messed up in our start. And so again, I apologize for all of you that came in late because you had the incorrect link. Let's go back and let's just kind of review here what we covered. Robbie LeValley talked about a 2018 feasibility study that was conducted by Delta and Montrose counties. Basically, in general, it concluded that there is a waste supply of fruit, corn. There are other commodities in our region that we've identified as well, but there is supply and there's demand for individual quick frozen product. The phase 2 RFP that was just issued for this phase 2 feasibility study for the IQF is really to validate that phase 1 further and to develop a business and marketing plan in summary. Kathryn Bedell with Roan Creek Ranch also talked about how she is applying for a local food promotion program grant to get a facility up and running, to get costs for that covered. And Mitch Bennett, a managing member of the Western Slope Food and Innovation Center, just presented on their plans for developing an IQF facility at the old Russell Stover's building, and who's also working on a proof of concept facility, perhaps even for this season. So that's kind of my summary of the 3 guest presenters you have here. Let's open this up for some questions, as I know several of you that are in the audience here are familiar with these already and probably have some questions. So please unmute yourself and ask away. And if you want, or if you prefer, you can post your question in the chat.
So Sean, we actually just, I'm trying to monitor the chat during this call. And so I just wanted to bring attention that there was already a question, most specifically related to the local food promotion program grant. And maybe they're just wanting Kathryn to reiterate what kind of support she could use from this group for that application.
So that's a little unclear at this point. We're going to need matching funds. So the plan is to form an LLC and have produce grower owners and other people, local people interested in food as the investors in this project. We're going to need letters of support, both from consumers and from producers. So if you raise fruit and you want to send a letter of support, or if you are a potential consumer of these goods, a letter of support sort of indicating what your interest is, what you need it for, and sort of a volume indication would be terrific. And you can send those to me at Kathy@RoanCreekRanch.com. And I guess that's it right now.
Thanks, Kathy. We already had some interest being shown in purchasers. So getting Mr. Dan Sharp here has, well, I'll let him introduce.
Yeah, first of all, I just wanted to say I did give Kathryn a letter of support. So but I was wanting to know if Mitchell and that project needs also a letter of support from an institutional buyer like us who buys a pretty good amount of annual produce. So is that something you need, Mitchell?
Let me unmute myself. Sorry. I'm going to be working with Kathryn. So Kathryn and I are going to be working together. I'm putting the business plan together. So I'm going to be supporting her. I look at what we have as a facility now that has all the processing needs that we always have been looking for the Western Slope. And the most important thing is we've got a huge freezer we got to fill.
Well, I got to tell you, it's exciting. I just got 2 truckloads of applesauce cups and peach cups yesterday, and I can't wait to share some of those numbers with you guys. And I would love to have Palisade. We've talked about the vision of this idea separately from your guys's for years. We had talked about with other producers in the Western Slope. How cool would it be to have peaches that typically maybe get discarded, 2s and 3s, that could be IQF'd and then used in our school cafeterias across the Western Slope all school, winter, year long. So I just want to say thank you. Great work. That you got the building. It's exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
A lot to a lot of the community families that have kids in school. So thanks.
You're welcome.
Just to let you know, the other commodities that we're looking at are also beef and sweet corn and potatoes. Anybody else? Other questions you have or comments, ideas? Realize that, you know, there are people working on actively, you know, getting something up and going right now as well as possible. While in tandem with that, there is another feasibility study grant that's really looking at how to model this. You know, what's the ownership model? What's the business model? What's the marketing plan? And so it would be optimum if we could have a proof of concept facility operating in tandem with a study going on to figure out what does a full-fledged facility need and what's required, and a business plan and a marketing plan around that. But it's a lot easier to develop a marketing plan and to get commitments from buyers if you have actual physical product that you've produced, maybe in a proof of concept scale facility, to go around and take to those potential buyers. Anyone else? Any other questions?
Hey, Sean, I just put something in the chat, but I'll go ahead and ask. What is there a particular volume that a producer would have to bring in? And Mitch, this might be for you, to bring into the facility in order to be able to use it, or are you just looking for large producers?
You know, right now, I'm going back to my business days of proofs of concepts. I mean, we don't really know yet, right? So we'd like to be able to say that now that we have the facility, what's the equipment that we need to put into there, that facility? I mean, is it a spiral? Is it, you know, a tunnel? How much volume do we think we can get from different producers? So, you know, we're looking at it from a standpoint of not only peaches and sweet corn, but also beef and potatoes, right? And we need the beef and potatoes because that's year round. We can quick freeze that year round. So right now we're just kind of looking at it from a standpoint of saying, if we're just going to do a proof of concept, because there's just a lot of questions that we still have regarding packaging and price points and distribution channels. And now we're talking about a cold chain that we've never had before. So we're just trying to figure out what all those different components would be. The nice thing, we have a facility now that we've actually allocating the second floor to say, you know, let's put a business plan together and let's get producers to be part of this in some kind of a co-op that says, hey, we've got a facility here that we can all share. And that's kind of what we're doing over the next 2 or 3 months, is that we really don't have all the answers yet, but I can tell you right now, the freezer's big enough that I can take all the products from the Western Slope and still have room.
I guess a follow-up question on that would be, are you looking to brand the Western Slope food and be selling that out of your facility, and or give the producer the option to get their quick frozen products back to sell themselves?
Yeah, we're looking at it both ways. I think there's going to be where you're going to have to aggregate and do a kind of a Western Slope brand. And then you're going to have some farmers that are large enough that say, hey, I've got my own brand equity that I've built up over many years, and I just want you to process it, put my label and my brand on the package, and then they can distribute it to their existing channels. So we're not competing with anybody, but I think we're going to have some kind of a brand for the Western Slope, Colorado proud, coming from the Western Slope. So that's kind of the vision that we have right now, but this is all conceptual. We need to get down into the details right now.
If you have any other questions, just jump right in. We've allocated plenty of time for Q&A here so that we can unpack this in whatever way that you prefer. So please feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, hi, everybody. I have a question. This is Jessica Wright from Nourish, Colorado, Chef Jess. The work that we do is we have a healthy food and institutions bucket, and one of that areas of focus is local procurement workshops, specifically designed to help facilitate the connections between institutions and producers, and really build up that foundation for making a sustainable process to where it's not just one-off buying opportunities, but something that's actually interwoven into how these institutions operate. Dan Sharp actually got to attend one of our original workshops that we developed, and we've expanded it over the course of these last 2 years into a 3-part series. And we are also looking into an LFPP grant with a focus specifically on the Eastern Plains, and one region potentially being Central Colorado as well. The long-term goal for these workshops is to actually have them implemented and effectively woven into how our Department of Education and Department of Health and Environment operate their programs. So we're going for LFPP with this plan to effectively facilitate the transition from us as a nonprofit implementing these workshops to where CDE is implementing these, and CDPHE is doing that along with CDA, and maybe even potentially Department of Human Services, which handles the area agencies on aging, so we can interweave in the elder care facilities as well. So I'm not sure how all of this can fit together, but I would love to really look at, because right now on the Eastern Plains, I mean, as all of you all are aware, it's really much a kind of field of dreams concept, because we're looking at a lot of commodity crops being grown out there more so than specialty crops. So they are very much so in like the pre-feasibility study plans for how we can actually make farm to school, farm to institution happen on the Eastern Plains, more of a small steps, but we want our institutions to start buying local products, even if it's coming from the Western Slope. So having a facility like this is incredibly exciting. And I think there's a lot of opportunities to weave this in, what you all are building, help create the connections for the Eastern Plains, and then use this feasibility study to see how we could potentially replicate something like this on the Eastern Plains and have some sort of distribution IQF facility as well, as we build up what's happening on the Eastern Plains, especially with beef. But maybe we can get, a bunch of peppers into the mix as well, and tomatoes as well. So just wanted to ping that for you all. We're still in these kind of development phases as well, and having conversations with our state agencies about this. But we'll also be looking for letters of support, and it would be brilliant to really link all of this in and show that these are some of the efforts that are happening statewide to really foster and build this foundation for local food in our institutions.
Thank you, Jess. That's wonderful.
I've been thinking about, there are some larger grants available for putting together these food system connections. And so if you think about writing one of those, certainly link us in on that, and we could collaborate. Right now, yeah. If you come across one of those, definitely tag me.
Well, I'd like to bring to everybody's attention too, that again, our goal is to take the planning work from this grant, this Regional Food System Partnership USDA grant that we currently have, and roll it into an implementation plan in March of next year. So I think this is, coordinating these sorts of synergistic projects is part of what we have in mind in our implementation plan. Anybody else? Any other questions? Or suggestions?
Oh, go ahead, Penelope.
No, actually, this is from the chat. Just wondering again around the or the Western Slope Food and Innovation Center, start calling it what it is. Do you envision kitchen space for manufacturing of additional value-added products, such as backpacking meals, individual meals, etc.? I know you're still, figuring out a lot of those details, but I think that's a question I've seen in the chat, and then one I've heard in conversations as well.
Yes, so what we're doing is that we are allocating the second floor for regional production, but I still have 223,000 square feet of space that we are going to be basically marketing starting next week across the country to bring in people that do food processing right now. So large entities that want to, relocate to Montrose and then want to use the entire bottom floor where we've got another kitchen and we've got a tremendous amount of cooler space and dry storage space. So we are going to be marketing that property starting next week. So you'll see probably a brochure going out about the facility. And our goal is to really find someone that wants to come in and be a big food processor in that local region. The things that we have going for us is that we've got a lot of raw materials locally. So we've got a lot of interest from a lot of companies already that are saying, wow, I can buy my products very close to where my processing is. So we're pretty excited about that. And like I said, we're allocating the second floor right now. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to hold on to that because we might have someone that comes in and wants to take over the entire plant. But as of right now, we've kind of separated and said, hey, the second floor, we're going to keep aside for now until we find that right tenant that wants to come in and bring in a big processing facility. I mean, our goal is really about economic development. So it's about jobs. We've got some really skilled employees in Montrose that all have food safety training. So they've already gone through that. So they know how to handle food. And we're pretty excited. And I think we're going to see some big companies coming in soon. I see the question about an incubator. I'd love to have an incubator on the second floor. I mean, if we really look at what we have up there, we've got our own 43,000 square foot space. I've got to figure out some ways to get raw materials up to the second floor, but we do have a freight elevator but I'd like to be able to see if we can conveyor that up into the second floor. But, it's a self-contained unit up there. And then it can go right into the freezer. So that's kind of the thing that we'd like to do is put together some kind of an incubator. We've got a lot of local brands here on the Front Range that are also running out of space for their expansion. So we've got some brands here that are saying, hey, I might be interested in basically moving some of my processing out to the Western Slope and utilizing facility. So that's kind of the plan as of right now.
I just have a comment about the incubator idea. I work for Region 10 now, but I worked at West End Economic Development Corporation where we had a pretty underutilized kitchen space for an incubator, but I helped run along with Region 10 and we'd see a business accelerator before and during my entry over here at Region 10, where we had several companies that were trying to do some value-added products. And I think then, and with the business incubator in Junction, it seems like if there was a knowledge that this was a possibility and a pathway for those folks to learn how to scale their businesses with that hope that it's possible, and to create a brand and have those business resources available, that growing our own would be a really wonderful opportunity. So I guess it's more of a comment than a question on that. Thank you.
And I think Benu, yes, great.
Hey, thanks, Penelope. I'm sorry, folks. I'm actually recovering from the second vaccine shot, so I'm not feeling so hot right now. But I do want to comment on one of the things that I'm really happy to see here today is the collaboration portion, especially in regards to building the infrastructure for the food system here in Colorado. One of the things that's been really prevalent during the pandemic is finding ways in connecting together and building a better local system so that our people who live in Colorado can depend on a more sustainable food system than the collapsing one that we literally witnessed from the pandemic last year. One thing I did want to say about this Western Slope Food and Innovation Center is that you guys are creating literally a centralized food hub where you can bring in all of your local producers and be able to distribute that food to your communities that really need it. One of the things that I have been seeing across the landscape is literally mimicking Mother Nature. So if you're interested, if you know what biomimicry is, it's literally copying the ecosystem from Mother Nature and creating these pathways, kind of like a mycelium network, where you create these pathways to transport your resources to the areas in an efficient way. And one of the many organizations that is trying to create is the Regenerative Agricultural Work Group in the Alliance Center. And there is a gentleman named Roberto Mesa at Emerald Gardens who is creating the East Denver Food Hub. And what he really wants to do is he wants out of all of the counties here in Colorado, the 64 counties, where we create these food hubs where we can be interconnected and keep the food moving and make sure that we distribute it within Colorado so that we can build a better infrastructure instead of depending on outsourcing. If we keep the food local, then we can ensure that our communities have access to food without, worrying about, not having enough food access, but also helping to build the economy and making sure our local producers and businesses, get the business that they need in order to be sustainable. So I think that you have a wonderful idea here. I would like to see more collaboration and hopes of giving you guys the funding that you need. There is billions, if not trillions, of money that is available. It's just funneling it into the right areas and making sure that those resources are available to you. So I would love to offer, if any of you need information, we can be able to connect and get what you guys need to get this going. So I'm just wanting to let you guys know that I'm very proud to see this process and development, especially in the Western Slope. You guys do provide a lot of food to Colorado, so thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Benu, where are you from and who are you with? I apologize for not knowing.
Oh, no, that's okay. I'm actually with a lot of organizations, with so many, but I live in the Denver metro area. I actually am based in Aurora, but I work with several organizations, Hunger Free Colorado, the Colorado Department of Human Services, the Regenerative Recovery Coalition, which is with the Alliance Center, the Climate Reality chapter here in Colorado, who is from or based with Al Gore, the ex-vice president. He has a organization that focuses on climate change and several other organizations, but all centering around food and food access. So I will put my email in the chat. If anybody wants to reach out, I can get you some information and try to help you guys with this project and moving it along by connecting you guys to some maybe some organizations or people who can help you guys.
Thank you. Hey, Robbie, where can people find the RFP?
So I will put that in the chat as well, but it'll be on our Delta County website. Or if you want me to send it direct to you, Sean, you could get it out to your group.
Sure, you can. Yeah, you can send it to me, or you can also, if you find it soon enough, you can post it in the chat here.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Chris Holstrom, did you have anything you wanted to? Okay.
Oh,
I
I was just really happy to see some Marion and Benu on here, and Jessica, all folks I've been involved with from the Front Range, from Nourish to the Regenerative Recovery Coalition. We just had a big meeting yesterday that was focused on regenerative ag with the Recovery Coalition. And one of the things that we're working on, because most of the participants for the last 6 months have been from the Front Range, is the idea of a Western Slope regenerative ag tour late this summer. Just again, sort of emphasizing the connection and having folks see what's happening out here. So happy to give more detail on that with anybody who's interested.
And I just want to chime in from Boulder. I have a nonprofit called Grow Your Own Meal, and I attempt, not always as successfully, to help the farmers in our county. And believe it or not, I'm jealous how far along you guys are for having a central food hub location. And I commend you greatly. Maybe I should consider emigrating to Montrose, one of my favorite towns in Colorado, for sure. But I do look forward to getting in touch with folks to find out how we could collaborate, because all of these have the same components and we should not reinvent the wheel.
Thank you, Marion. I guess I want to call out Libby, just put you on the spot there. Libby, you popped up and I saw you, and I wondered if you had anything to contribute or any questions.
I guess there's a lot of talk about collaboration, and I think, so I'm working with Sean, Mitch, Penelope on kind of putting together the resources around the regional food partnership planning process. And if you guys could identify or any additional information or tools or resources that would help move the collaboration or ease that process, because there's a lot in terms of face-to-face conversations, but there's also a lot of resources that if we could just write it down and you could point to it as a tool if you're applying for a grant, or if there's information, having like the number of partners or thinking about a network and what that network looks like and your role, kind of what gaps there are in that network. I think that those are all kind of questions that we could explore in this planning process, if it would be valuable for the collaboration. So that's a question that I have for all of you. What kind of information would help you do your job better, or make the conversations that you have with others richer, faster, to kind of speed up this process?
Thanks, Libby. All right, any final words from Mitch or Kathryn or Robbie? I thought we would have a little bit more to talk about and say here. I think maybe everybody's going to be taking this home to think on. There's a lot of opportunity here, with the Russell Stover's plant facility there, commercial kitchen space, huge freezer, people working on grants, all kinds of collaborative, initiatives happening around regionalizing our food systems. So there's just a lot going on. If you have any further questions or suggestions, or want to get involved, or want to link us up with somebody else, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my email here in the chat. And if there's no other further questions or comments from anybody, we will wrap it up. But I'll just
we got one more.
Okay, go ahead.
Sean?
Yes.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons maybe we're quiet is we're stunned by the opportunity. It's just so cool. So I think if any of the group, if they have something specific that they need, whether it's a letter of support, also consider local government letters of support, or just a subgroup to network about a specific idea, if they can funnel that through you and you can reach out, that would be great. Because yeah, I think certainly my mind is spinning and it's just so exciting. I have goosebumps, and yeah, I can't think of any really coherent questions at this point in time, but just so pleased and psyched that this is happening. And Mitch, please don't let anybody take that second floor yet. We're going as fast as we can, I think.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I would like to also just jump in and say, like, yeah, this is so big. I agree with Chris. It's kind of a lot to get the head around right now, but I have lots of ideas flowing around. And I'll also mention, Chris, would love to know more about your West Slope Regenerative Ag farm tour. We've got some awesome producers in Gunnison doing regenerative ag, so that might be a cool collaboration thing. But I also just wanted to throw out, some of you may have already talked to me about this. We are currently doing an LFPP planning grant that we have that's running through March of next year. And it's a planning grant. So we've really been doing some research phases, and the project is all about Southwest Colorado regional local food hub to node connectivity. And this new IQF facility, I just see, you know, now that this is coming about, certainly a lot of opportunity there. And so we're trying to cast a wide net. We have a few different partners, the San Luis Valley, we're working with farm runners in the North Fork Valley, Good Food Collective in Durango, and Guidestone in Salida. So right now we've been doing some stakeholder research. So we did surveys and roundtables with producers and consumers of all kinds in the Gunnison and San Luis Valleys, kind of looking for commonalities with barriers of increasing supply and demand of local food. And now we're trying out some methods this summer. Hopefully I'll get to share with you more information about that later this year. And then we also, our tier 2 partners that I mentioned in the North Fork, Salida, and Durango areas, they're going to be replicating our research phase. So doing roundtables and surveying with their stakeholder producers and buyers to kind of look for more common needs and what are the resources and how can we connect them better. So we actually are very open to bringing into the fold any more tier 2 partners who would like to get in on this process. We would provide all training and materials for running roundtables and surveys. So that was a big dump out there. But if anybody is interested in partnering with us, you know, we'll try to make it as easy as possible for you to get involved, but we would love to gather just more data and more needs. And this is a huge part of it, what's going on in Montrose. So congratulations, Mitch, and great job, everybody. So I can also drop my email in the chat if anyone wants to connect about what we're doing.
Thanks a lot, Molly. Please do. Yeah. Well, I think we'll start stirring the pot here and we'll get some ideas. Please, my email address is in the chat, but also we'll be sending out next week a newsletter with recording to this and also any other information that we got from this conversation and links to and addresses to people that were involved. So we're on the hour. I, again, apologize for the rough start there. Thanks for everybody for pivoting and being nimble and finding your way here. Again, please reach out to any of us with any questions. If you can help with any of these grants that are being applied for or business plans or want to get more information, again, just email me and I'll connect you with whoever you need to talk to. All right. Have a good afternoon or day. I guess it's still morning. So enjoy your day. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sean.